All right, on this episode of Storytime with Surly, I'm doing it a little bit later in the week than usual. I spent a few days out of town moving some equipment for a local military base up to Salt Lake City. Anyway, on this episode, we're going to talk about, it's hot. God bless America, it's hot. We're going to talk about automotive accidents, or in my case, I don't believe in luck, but just for the sake of terminology, bad luck vehicles. So I have an affinity for 90s model Ford Explorers. Doesn't matter if it's the 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97. I stop at 97 because that's when they stopped making the overhead valve. It was at the end of 97, I believe. You could still pick up a 97, 98 with an overhead valve V6, but most of them were the sock motors, single overhead cam junk. They made good power, but when they broke, they broke. That's neither here nor there. That's not what the story's about. So in November of 2014, I am driving my 97, 96, depending on who you talk to. Title company said 96, insurance company said 97. Explorer down Grand Parkway 99 between Baytown and Liberty. I was headed to my grandmother's for Thanksgiving, and I had to work late, so my wife at the time and my daughter were already in Orange, because I lived in the Houston area at the time. I got up on this parkway doing about 70 miles an hour. Set the cruise control. It's pitch black dark. It's cold. I'm just cruising along, and just like anybody else, you get comfortable. You start messing with your phone. I wasn't texting or anything. Texting at the time for me wasn't really something I did. Even Facebook, and you can look that up. So I started messing with my phone. I might have been switching music or something. And about the time I look up, there's this gigantic bull monster elk, bullwinkle, giant sized Santa's reindeer male deer in the middle of the road, and I had no time to react. So about the time I was about 10 feet from him, he made a leap forward a little bit, and I caught the back half of him. And he was so big, and mind you, a four-door Ford Explorer. He was so big that he took out the front driver's side, all of it, the grill, the headlight. The whole front end exploded. The plastic stuff, core support was fiberglass, or whatever that stuff is. Basically exploded the whole front end without messing up like the bumper mounts and the bracketry and the frame, and none of the fenders, the hood, all that stuff was fine. But he was so big that when I hit him with the front of the vehicle, his head came around and made like this around the vehicle, and I thought for sure, I look over to my left thinking it's about to hit the door. It hits the back driver's side door, and his head hits the back driver's side door so hard that it caved the door in, and the door was like this. So here's the bottom of the door, here's the top of the door, and the top of the door was out away from the top gutter, rail, whatever you want to call it, about 6 inches. I could still open and close the door, mind you. So I come to a coast. Obviously, I couldn't give you dimensions before I actually looked at it. So all this happened, boom, 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 within like 5 seconds. So I throw on my hazards, pull over into the shoulder. I guess I need to backtrack one more time. So I got the cruise control on, right? Like I said, I didn't have any time to react. When he went under the back of the vehicle and the vehicle left the ground, it idled up. And when I hit the ground, it went roar, started roasting the tires because it slowed me down. So once I hit the brake, cruise control turned off. I pulled over to the shoulder, hit the emergency flashers, and I noticed that the front ones, you can't see them. There ain't no headlights, and it's pitch black out here on this parkway. So I get out and I'm using some choice profanity. I got my flashlight out of the center console. I'm looking around. Man, I still got like an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes worth of driving to do in the dark. So I sat there for a second, check my phone. All right, I'm not going to call anybody yet because I'm breathing. I'm going to wait, assess the situation. So back about, I'd say by this time, it's probably 100 yards. I could hear this thing thrashing around. And needless to say, I got it out of the road. About the time that a state trooper was pulling up, and he asked me everything to have, and he came to look at the truck, and he said, well, what are you going to do? You going to call the wrecker? I said, well, no, I'm going to have to figure something out. So I checked it over, made sure nothing was leaking, picked up all my stuff off the beltway, or the parkway. And he said, you ain't got to pick all that up, because there's nobody out here. I said, oh, it's fine, it's no big deal. Adds to the story, right? So I get everything loaded up, and he watches me as I take 2 LED flashlights, and I want to say, I don't remember what brand they were, but shout out to, I'll have to tag the brand if I can figure out which ones they were. I used some duct tape, D-U-C-T tape, not duck, D-U-C-K tape. Some duct tape, and tape these 2 flashlights roadkill style. I don't know if you guys ever watch Roadkill. The old Roadkill, not the new stuff. But tape these flashlights to the hood of my truck to where I could see. We gone. And he laughed. He thought it was the funniest thing in the world. So I get hold on, there's a vehicle creeping through here real slow, kind of makes me wonder. So I get to Orange. My grandpa helps me bungee everything up. And we went to the local parts store and bought a couple of cheap LED fog lights and mounted them about where the headlights would be in the non-existent buckets. And that's the way I drove it home. There was also, so this was 2019, something like that. Yeah, 2019. Same vehicle, after I'd already fixed it. Same vehicle. Father's Day 2019. Boy, look how lopsided these glasses are. I guess that's what happens when your kids play with them. That or I got a lopsided head, I don't know which. Father's Day 2019, we're heading into Orange. This is before I moved back to Orange. With my kids loaded up in the car, the wife, and we're coming down MacArthur in Orange, and this guy just pulls out of the shopping center like he don't see me. And typically in Texas, when you're rearing somebody, that's your fault. But I had enough people that stopped that vouched for the fact that this guy just pulled straight out in front of me, and I absolutely decimated this poor brand new 30-day tags on it Nissan. What's the SUV? The Murano. Yeah, the Murano, that little bubble one. Absolutely destroyed it. Blew the whole, passenger side rear out of this thing. Because he came in like this, and I hit him like this. Well, here we go again. Front end explodes. This time it messed the hood and hood hinges up, the fenders up, the bumper brackets where it mounts to the frame, messed all that up. Blew out the front 2 body mounts. Shifted the radiator back about an inch. Thankfully, it didn't touch the fan. So I make sure my kids are good. And I made a mistake at the time. I should have had an ambulance on scene. And if I'm going to say this for the purposes of insurances and reassurances and safety, always, if you have kids in the car after an incident, call an ambulance. So I make sure my kids are good. Everybody's good. Airbags didn't even go off. It didn't break the front 2 airbag sensors or nothing. Decimated this car. So I bungee the hood down, pick all my stuff up, throw it in the back, get to my grandmother's house, and instead of spending Father's Day hanging out with my kids and watching them play on the water slide and all this other stuff, I have to work on my truck. So at the end of all of this, I had rude boy, I don't know, rough boy. I had put the headlights back on with zip ties because they still worked. Just the buckets were busted. Again, the front core support exploded. Or headlight buckets, or whatever you want to call the thing. So I rectified that situation with the headlights so we could still drive at night if we had to. I took the hood off, strapped it to the roof with the bumper, and we rode home. No bumper, no front marker lights, no hood, with everything strapped on the roof and the sunroof shade open so I can keep an eye on everything because it was kind of windy that day. Suffice it to say that that poor Explorer went through the ringer in the 12 years that I owned it, and I only recently sold it last winter, not this past, so a year and a half ago. And I'd driven it everywhere. When I got it, it had like 50,000 miles on it, which was pretty cherry for the time. And I think when I got rid of it, it had like 325 on it. It was a hard 300 something thousand miles. Or no, yeah, 325 sounds right. Ish, 323. But anyway, again, these stories are for you guys, for my kids. Shout out to Peyton and Lillian. Peyton, who started school this week, and Lillian, who starts school next week. And my little buddy Tim, that's my youngest son, my only son. You guys are awesome, and I hope that these videos provide some future clarity for your father's indulgence in internal combustion engines and grease under his fingernails and agitations and what it takes to make sure that your family eats. So, you guys are awesome. My YouTube folks, family, I don't know if I could call you guys family, the 400 and right now 44 or 43 of you. Thank you guys again. It's so awesome to get comments, positive, negative, doesn't matter to me. Watch, like, subscribe, question, comments, concerns. I'll answer anything for the most part. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. So stay tuned for next week's episode. It'll be episode 9, where I may or may not get into a story that happened just this past week, where a friend of mine was his first time ever driving at 10,000 feet with no guardrails. I don't know if I'd ever seen somebody sweat that much sitting in an AC truck. Thanks again, guys. This is Surly Mechanic. Y'all have a good day.